fixing it somehow. I don't think. Especially movies that are really good and work very well and that people really, really like. I mean, what's the, if you make something that's really bad and you want to fix it, maybe that's another issue. But to make something that's deemed, that's actually takes, things to another level, I think is important to the history of film.
Oh, my retro burner.
Lines to make you think about things, because you're looking at apes, and you're talking about people. But it's always the ultimate thing about this movie is that it's not really about apes; it's about people, and that's what I always liked about it. Even though the apes move like apes and they're more like apes, anything that's said, they're still sort of talking about, and it's still about people, really. About all of that to that is, and that's why I like you're looking at there's the evolutionary, do we come from apes, but then there's apes talking religious stuff, and there's all these weird juxtapositions where to me actually represents how fragmented society is, because I grew up when people talking about things, but then you realize they're kind of contradicting themselves, and they're kind of actually saying things that mean actually the opposite. And so I grew up feeling very sort of like when people say reality, well, what's reality? It's like, because people are kind of talking in circles and saying things that they believe but they don't feel like they feel, or they're saying, so I've had that sort of disbalanced, fragmented feeling from a very early age, I think. And that's why, again, I think I like this material. It's kind of screwing with your brain at every second in some way. I consider myself a spiritual person, although I don't subscribe to one thing. But I would, you talk to people, and part of the reason I wasn't lured to certain religious things was that I didn't believe that I try to understand the story and get a sense of passion or belief out of it, and you wouldn't. And so therefore, it's like, what are you really talking about? Belief and spirituality is a feeling. It's not sort of this thing that's spoken like a zombie, I always love this idea of apes talking religion, There's something really, really, really weird about it to me. Nitpicky, or in interviews I haven't talked much about the movie, is that to what I was saying earlier about letting movies let people decide what they want to decide about it. I mean, that's what I all about things. I mean, if I watched Frankenstein, it wasn't about, I saw it like it was about Burbank, and it was the angry villagers were my neighbors. Everybody sees films in a different way, and I think that's especially a film like this, where you're, like I said, you can get a lot of different responses from Eddie on it, and I think that's why I haven't gone out of my way to kind of over analyze it, because I'd rather let other people do that and maybe do that later, but because I enjoy that. It's people get too literal in life, and that's what I try to react against a little bit, is to let people think things about things that they want to think, and if they
interrupted.
Believe that's what it is, then let them, it shows more about them than it does about anything else, and I find that's always interesting. I like seeing what people think, because it says a lot about them and where they're coming from. Part of what I love, again, about the medium of films, and this goes back to their inception, there's something mystical about them. When they first came out, people didn't know how it was done and how, and there was a magical quality to it, and it's the visual form of a novel. I mean, a novel, does make you think more, because you're not given the images and all of that sort of thing. You use your imagination more. Film, it is a visual medium, so therefore you are seeing more things. You're getting sound, you're getting the words, you're getting the images, and you're getting everything else, music, you're getting all of this. So with that, you're getting quite a lot. You don't need everything, let people think, let them have their own mind about it, and the more people do that, the better I think they are for themselves. It's like the more open you become. If you see a movie and know every single aspect about it and everything is clearly defined for you, I don't know, I'm not sure what kind of movie that is. show and what not to show. Again, especially on a film like this where it does, you're kind of supposed to not know certain things in a certain, I mean, that's from the book, that comes from the first film, from all the films actually. There's a, you think you're someplace, but you're not someplace. You think you're here, but you're there. You think it's this time, but it's that time. That's again, because in its root, the material is about those unanswerable questions. That's again what I liked about when I said the primal nature of the material is like, okay, where do we come from? Is there life after death? It's your primal nature versus your intellectual nature. I mean, there's unanswerable questions that we always are asking about, and this just sort of puts a face to it, an image to it, and that's what, and that's why you don't want to answer everything. I met him in Hawaii, actually, when we were doing a scout. I met him on Kauai. I think he lives there. And he just seemed like a really interesting character, just as a person, He just, and you know what, I always respond to people who I don't quite understand, because I think I'm sort of that way myself. It's like I sort of understand them, but I don't, and so I feel actually quite connected. And so Cary got very much into being a gorilla, in fact, to the point where, he'd jump out of a tree and scare the shit out of you anytime he could, to when Charlton Heston said yes to this, because, again, the circular nature, or this sort of reversal nature of the material, it's like that he came to do this as an ape was amazing. And he again has one of those voices that just comes on, it's just, you get chills, it's like an amazing presence, and so much a part of the Planet of the Apes mythology, really. I mean, he's, when I saw that first movie, he was a part of what made that movie work, and I used to watch him at that age. I was of that era of this, Planet of the Apes, Soylent Green, the Omega Man. Those are some of my favorite movies. He's just so, he's a part of making those things the intensity and weirdness and strength that they are. He's got a unique, I mean, when I first heard it, I just heard him speak out of this, I got weird chills in the back of my neck, because it was so strong. Charlton Heston seemed like the beginning of that era that's become very standard now. The quip, the joke, the one-liner kind of, Arnold Schwarzenegger line. Yeah. There was one scene in the Omega Man where there's a weird white guys are all talking to him, and he says something like, "Is it true you people work for the Internal Revenue Service?" It's like one of those kind of lines. Like, wow, that's the first modern line like that I can remember that brought in this new era. Breakage. But we never tried to treat it like if people didn't see the first movie, it's like they wouldn't matter really. It's like that was worth my price of admission for me.
What you hold in your hand.
Make this kind of project, because I know that the original movie was a milestone for that, and it got a lot of people into wanting to make do makeup and stuff. So that was like a hard decision for me, because I know Stan, I know Stan, and I know Rick, and I know, but Stan was working on Jurassic Park, and he had his hands full, and Rick, has done so many ape things, and has done, just finished something where he had a huge, a lot of makeup. So it seemed definitely the right choice. Ever since, what was that movie he did, Schlock, or and then. Yeah, he's done. Yeah, you could trace it all the way back to those really bad costumes in the 50s. I mean, so when he started it, he was on a higher level, but it's gone further and further. The funny thing is, though, it's it's still an ape costume. That's what always cracks me up. No matter how good it gets, it's your basic ape costume.